Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are on day 9 of the 30-day challenge for my SC-200, and I kind of just want to back up a little bit from diving into the modules on Medium and going through it here on YouTube and take a look at the actual overview of the exam once more, and then dive into a few of the actual exam study videos that Microsoft has up on their site. First, I kind of wanted to go over what the exam covers, the topics, and kind of what I'm going to be studying more as we get into kind of like the second third of the journey. So the exam itself, right? The SC-200, for those that don't know, SC in Microsoft stands for Security Center, right? So Security Certification 200, Microsoft Security Operations Analyst. Microsoft Security Operations Analyst reduce organizational risk by rapidly remediating active attacks in the environment, advising on improvements to threat protection practices, refer violations of organizational policies to appropriate stakeholders. They perform triage, incident response, and vulnerability management, threat hunting, and cyber threat intelligence analysis. So in there, we heard a bunch of different roles that you could actually apply to when you actually get the cert, right? And so the SC-200 is the premier Microsoft certification for cyber security analysts. Almost every single Microsoft security partner out there looks for this certification for their team members, as it's a required partner certification. As part of the cert, you should be familiar with Microsoft 365, Azure Cloud Services, Windows, and Linux operation systems. This certification is going to go into Microsoft Sentinel, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Microsoft 365 Defender, and some third-party security solutions. The passing score for the exam is 700. It does look like the exam will update on August 25th, which is about 15 days from when this was recorded. So I will go over the updates when they come out and prep for that a little bit. There's also some tips in here as Microsoft Learn keeps updating new features. There's actually really cool study guides that actually will lay out exactly what will be on the exam for topics. And there's also exam prep videos that they're updating every day. So first, let's go into the study guide, and then we'll look and see what kind of prep videos. I haven't even looked at the prep videos myself. So the study guide for the SC-200, as you can see on the left bar here, there's study guides for every exam that's out there for Microsoft, right? So the purpose of the doc is to help you understand what to expect on the exam and includes a summary of the topics the exam might cover with links to additional resources. There's change logs for the exam. You can go straight to how to earn the certification, and sandbox the exam, which is just make sure that you're prepared for your environment, your computer works, and all that good stuff. Most questions cover features that are generally available. Exam may contain questions of preview features. Those features are commonly used. So the audience profile for this exam should be Microsoft Security Operations Analyst that reduce organizational risk, right? So we overread that just a little bit. The part I really kind of like to go over with people is these three, like whatever the familiar subject should be. So you should be familiar with how to mitigate threats using Microsoft 365 Defender, how to mitigate threats using Defender for Cloud, and how to mitigate threats by using Microsoft Sentinel. But really pay attention to the percentages, right? So if you really focus on how to mitigate threats by using Microsoft Sentinel, that's going to be 50 to 55% of the exam, right? So just by putting that together with mitigating threats in Microsoft 365 Defender, those two areas alone are going to make up about 75 to 85% of your test, right? And so by doing that, right, you're going to give yourself a huge advantage going into, hey, well, how do I set up Microsoft Defender for Cloud, right? It can be a little bit fuzzier, but we want to study everything, but the big focus should be Microsoft Sentinel. And what are the areas that you're going to cover when you go over mitigating threats for using the Microsoft 365 Defender? We're going to look into investigate, respond, or remediate threats to Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Online, and OneDrive. For those that have followed me so far on the journey, it's going to sound really familiar. That's kind of the modules we've gone through so far already, right? We're going to investigate, respond, or remediate threats to email by using Microsoft Defender for Office 365. We're going to investigate and respond to alerts generated by data loss prevention policies. I just remembered that yesterday on my Medium. We're also going to investigate and respond to alerts generated by insider risk policies. We're going to discover and manage apps by using Microsoft Defender for Cloud apps. We're going to identify, investigate, and remediate security risks by using Defender for Cloud apps. All right, and so we're also going to mitigate endpoint threats by using Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. All right, so manage data retention, alert notification, advanced features, how to recommend attack surface reduction for devices. We're going to respond to incidents and alerts. We're going to configure and manage device groups. We're going to identify devices at risk by using the Microsoft Defender Vulnerability Management. We're going to manage endpoint threat indicators. And we're going to identify unmanaged devices by using device discovery. So there's a lot there to unpack with the Microsoft Defender for endpoint, right? And so we have a couple things under identity threats, which are mitigate security risks related to events for Microsoft Azure AD, part of Microsoft Entra. We're going to mitigate security risks related to Azure AD identity protection events. We're going to mitigate security risks related to Active Directory domain services by using Microsoft Defender for identity, right? And I think we have a couple more. Manage extended detection response, or XDR, in Microsoft 365 Defender. We're going to manage incidents and automated investigations in the Microsoft 365 Defender portal. We're going to manage actions and submissions in the Microsoft 365 Defender portal. We're going to identify threats by using the Custo query language, or KQL. Identify and remediate security risks by using Microsoft Secure Score. We're going to analyze threat analytics in the Microsoft 365 Defender portal. And we're going to configure and manage custom detections and alerts. And then lastly, we're going to investigate threats by using audit features in Microsoft 365 Defender and Microsoft Purview. Right? So how would we perform threat hunting? By using the unified audit log, and perform threat hunting by using content search. Right? We're looking for threats in those two areas. So those are all the pieces that are going to make up that 25 to 30% of your test. Right? So it's really giving you the areas in which you need to dive deeper to do better on that portion. Right? So let's take a look and see if the videos line up to it. So we're going to go back. We're going to click on the SC exam prep videos. This is an area I haven't even looked at yet. So it looks like there's 3 different videos, and they cover, right, so in the first prep for SC-200, Albert Kirkpatrick introduces you to mitigating threats to the productivity environment by using Microsoft 365 Defender, mitigate endpoint threats by using Microsoft Defender for endpoint, mitigate identity threats managing extended detection and response in Microsoft 365 Defender. It's actually covering those first 3 skills we just talked about, right? And so it also has 2 more episodes. It gives you those links, so you can actually just flag this as you study for your test. And it's a 40-minute video, so you can actually prep through all of it. I think what I'll do over the next 3 or 4 days, I'll probably cover each little aspect a little bit deeper for this, and we'll watch the videos together and just kind of see how it goes over, see the content, and then we'll probably dive deeper individually. So one thing I want to share with you right now is going to be the Microsoft Secure Score. So I'm going to open up one of my portals and we're going to dive in. Hey guys, welcome back. We're now in the Microsoft 365 portal, and I'm going to show you guys how to get into the Microsoft Security portal. So first we're going to go to admin, and my account has a global admin access to this tenant. And we're going to go to show all. We're going to go to security. And as you see, it opens up a new blade, and it's actually going to security.microsoft.com. I'm going to check my permissions to make sure I have access to it. It gives you the tenant ID at the end. It's going to load a whole bunch of stuff in here. You can take a tour. We're not going to do any of that. As you see, more and more pop-ups come up. The first thing I kind of want to do is get through the home section. I kind of want to show you all the home section, what you see, right? So welcome to Microsoft 365 Defender. You can take a guided tour, see what's new. You can talk to the community. You can add cards so you have close, whatever you use close to you, right? You can see what you have deployed, right? So we have an MDI sensor deployed. We have health alerts coming in already, right? So we have 4 medium alerts, 1 low alerts, right? We can see what identity protection we have, right? In deployment health, so our sensor is deployed. We can see our connected SaaS applications, right? We can see our secure score. One of those things that we covered just briefly was about Microsoft Secure Score and how it's used, right, to remediate threats. So we're going to dive deeper on this, right? So this tenant secure score is 65%. And that's a Microsoft 365 baselines, right? So we have a score of 763 out of 1173. And what it's doing is it's taking our Microsoft 365 tenant and comparing it to other Microsoft 365 tenants across the world that are in the same sector, do the same type of work that we've identified ourselves as, and giving us a comparative score. It allows you to see what you're doing. It also has areas of improvement, right? So we have identities of 58%, data is 77%, devices 75%, apps are 34%, right? So there's a lot of opportunity to improve our score and grow with that. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Microsoft Secure Score, see how we can. One of the questions on the exam was how we can remediate risk with Microsoft Secure Score, right? And so we can actually see, right, our categories. We can see the identity, right? So how we remediate is actually going to recommended actions, right? And so we can actually see everything. But even better, you can export this list, and it exports it into a CSV for you, right? So you can track against it, right? And so what I sometimes walk customers through is, let's sort it by score impact, right? So we can raise it by, right? We can raise it by 0.85%, so just about a percent. But we can also, right, we can see what's been completed, see if we've regressed any, right? But we can also sort it by points achievable, right? So we have 0 out of 9, right? How much it's affecting us, not quite a percent. So you can see block executable files from running unless they meet a prevalent something, right? Unless they meet a prevalence, age, or trusted list criterion, right? So basically what it does is it tells you exactly what the description is. Attack surface reduction rules are the most effective method for blocking the most common attack techniques being used in cyber attacks and malicious software. This ASR rule blocks executable files such as EXEs, DLLs, or SCR files from launching unless they either meet a prevalence or age criteria, or they're in a trusted list or exclusion list. Security control is only applicable for machines with Windows 10 version 1803 or later. Allowing executables that have not yet established sufficient trust and validation to be executed increases your exposure to potentially malicious applications. Right? So we have 6 devices exposed. It shows you how many devices it can clean up. And then if we click expose entities, right, this will actually pull up that list for you if it ever loads, right? You can see all the different workstations out there, their OS platform, the time they were last seen connected, right? So a lot of my machines are kind of actually offline. Haven't really checked in lately, the virtual machines, so I haven't checked them in. But it tells you, right, their status, OS, all that good stuff. You can export the list. You can see the implementation, right? Within Microsoft 365 security, go to vulnerability management, recommendations, read the relevant security recommendation and choose remediation or exception options, right? So you can actually click the Manage in Microsoft 365 Defender button. It expands another blade, right? As you get more familiar with Microsoft 365 administration, you'll realize that there's expanding blades for everything, right? So this one is actually still inside security, right? It's inside of the security recommendations. And so we can do attack, right? It tells you more about the attack surface reduction, devices pending a restart. It can actually, right, increase our score by 9 points. All right, and so it says no devices in your organization are configured as recommended. This configuration is recommended by the following benchmarks: Microsoft and CIS benchmarks. Right, and so we can try it for free to assess our devices. That's actually done in the Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager. And so we can see what the user impact is, right? So based on sensor telemetry analysis from the last 45 days, this configuration can be safely set on 6 of your exposed devices with no expected user productivity impact, right? So then we can actually open the remediation options for safe devices, right? And so we can actually see exactly what to do, right? So first step is ensure that Microsoft Defender antivirus is turned on as a primary antivirus solution with real-time protection enabled. Ensure the cloud delivered protection is enabled, then enable this ASR rule in block mode using either Microsoft Endpoint Management Windows 10 only, group policy, or Microsoft Defender or mobile device management, right? So we do that step, we hit next, right? Task management tools, we can open a ticket in Intune, right? We can select a date for remediation, we can set a priority, right? You can actually go through and clean it up all right here through Microsoft 365. Right? And let's take a look at exception options, right? So if we want to put an exception in for it, right, we can select a reason. So we could say you're using a third-party endpoint management system. We could say, hey, we have a third-party control out there for it, and it will affect the exposure score and risk, right? So we create an exception, right, if we're using a third-party product. For instance, we're instead of using Microsoft Defender for endpoint for antivirus, we're going to use a tool like CrowdStrike, Carbon Black, Sophos, Cylance, one of those mini AV tools out there. We can just create a simple exception and continue on, right? It'll raise our score. It'll let Microsoft 365 know, hey, we're fixing this somewhere else. Please let our score go up, right? Very quick, very easy remediation. and mitigations. So I think it's actually really easy to fix some of the things in Microsoft Secure Score. As you see, there's a whole blade right there for it. It's not just in your home. There's an actual blade under threat intelligence, under Secure Score. We can see that same exact thing, right? We can see our trend lines, right? So like we had a pretty decent score, 68%, right? It's fluctuated a bit and then settled right around the 64% the last few weeks. And that's how you fix your Microsoft Secure Score and use the recommended actions tab. And then tomorrow we're going to go over a bit more with that first video, and we'll probably dive into a bit of the incidents and alerts. Until next time.